Good morning, everyone. I'm just going to wait a few minutes whilst people trickle in 'cause it's just turned 11 in the UK. I appreciate some people are probably early afternoon at this stage in South Africa and other places. But give us a few more minutes, then we'll get underway fairly promptly today. Cool. That's a minute past. That's good enough. Yeah. So thank you everyone for joining today. It's the first webinar out of our kind of growth series or December webinar week, which is happening obviously this week. This one in particular is one of the three that kind of targeted more accountants who are kind of in practice, and we've got another kind of two which are focused more on accountants at SMEs. So we're going to keep it fairly concise today. It's going to be a little bit of a different format. I'm going to explain that shortly, actually, and I'm keen to hear your feedback on this. But we're going to cover off a few kind of tactics that I've seen firms successfully use to introduce kind of a management insights or management information service offering. So it could be anything from like a small report to a more comprehensive offering to existing clients, kind of upselling to a new package, but also for prospective clients as well. Just before we get started, I'm just going to launch a poll. I'm just intrigued to see where people are at in terms of their own kind of management information offering. So the poll should be coming through now, hopefully. There's three quick questions, like multiple choice. It shouldn't take too long. Please do answer that if you can. Obviously, it's all anonymous and stuff. I'm just keen to see where we are as a group before I jump into the content in earnest. Interesting. Get a few more minutes, so a few people haven't quite got there to the poll, and then I'll start going through the brief slide deck. Cool. So it looks like quite a lot of people are already offering a MI offering, which is perfect. But 25% still haven't. So that hopefully there's some interesting tactics here for you to leverage, assuming you're obviously interested in the topic. And a big spread actually of clients using MI offerings. So the majority is actually about 50% is 0 to 10%. So there's still quite a lot of clients who could potentially be a fit. We'll go over that as well. Do you actively market the MI offering? No. And yes, so a bit of a mix there. Okay, good question coming through early, which is awesome. So if someone gets a call or a meeting, will these meetings be recorded and distributed? 100% they will be. They're also actually going to come out with PDFs as well. So there'll be practical PDFs on some of the kind of key takeaways, as well as a little checklist that you can take your firm through or your colleagues to see how you score according to like just some questions that I put together, basically. Good question. If anyone has any more, please do fire them into the Q&A at the end of the webinar today. Hopefully I have time to get around to those as well. Cool. Let me just shift that Q&A box over here. Let me end the poll. Thank you for those who participated. Please keep up that participation if you can. That's super insightful. I will share results here as well, so you can see how everyone else on the webinar is kind of viewing things as well, so you can see how your answers stack up. Perfect. So let's get into it. So quick agenda again, not going to throw a bunch of information here or anything, just going to go over, why do I see this as potentially important for your firm? There'll be a bit of a reflection. So I'm keen to take a different approach to this webinar. So I'm keen for you to come up with an honest assessment of where you're currently at with your MI offering or kind of reporting offering, and also where you want to get to. So a bit of a gap analysis. And at the end, I'm hoping that there'll be some actions that you take for this. And between the reflection and the actions, there's a couple of tactics that hopefully at least one or two are quite thought-provoking, but I'll let you be the judge on that one. So this is me. I'm head of growth at Fathom. So again, I've spoken to lots of firms over the years in different countries and kind of packaging up some of that advice here for yourselves. If you want to get in touch with anything, please do send me an email. If you have any feedback as well, so it's a bit of a different webinar to what Fathom's used to doing. So if you think it's better or worse, like please just provide candid feedback to me. More than happy to take it, good and the bad. At the end of the webinar as well, there will be a poll to see how you found it, basically, compared to the more traditional thought leadershipy webinars. Cool. So rules of engagement, just to give you a little bit of, I guess, forewarning here. So there's not going to be any product demo. I find, personal preference, kind of product demos are quite lengthy and they're not really tailored. At Fathom, we always do tailor them one-to-one anyway, so it doesn't really make sense for me to do that on a webinar, in my opinion. Some of the series later on, there'll be very brief snippets of the product, like snapshots to illustrate how you can do X, Y, or Z. But that's not to say you can only do that with Fathom, of course. It's more to illustrate how you can get to kind of end goal using a specific area of a product. Number two is get involved. So please do use the time to reflect, write down the actions, have a piece of paper handy, or like a Notion board or Google Doc, however you take your notes. Number three, provide feedback to me. Please do. If you think it's really bad, please tell me. That's absolutely fine. If you think it's great, please tell me as well, so I can know whether we should spin up more of these next year, if we should just go back to kind of the usual format that we take. And also take action. I'm a big believer in this. A lot of people, I do this myself as well. You jump on a webinar or go to a conference or whatever the case may be. You sit in a talk, the talk's great, but then you don't actually do anything about it. So you end up watching kind of 10, 20 hours worth of content in a quarter perhaps, and nothing really comes off the back of it. So please do take action. Again, if you're kind of halfway through this webinar and you think it's not worth your time, again, I'd probably recommend you go and do something better with your time as well. So hopefully that's not the case, but if it is, please do do that. And if you do like the content, please do take action and let me know how you go. Cool. So why is this important? So I've got a couple points here, but I always use this like analogy in a lot of my talks of a house, because I can sit here and say yes, offering MI might be beneficial, but I never want anyone to go in with like a big bang approach. And the house analogy, I think, is quite a useful one. You never start with the windows; you start step by step laying a foundation. So again, of the 32% of respondents who don't have a current offering, you're not going to start by offering it to all your clients. It's unrealistic. So you just start with the foundations, wait for that to set, and you slowly build up with this. So never go for the big bang approach. Having said that, why is offering MI perhaps useful to your firm? So first one's helping clients. You kind of reduce the stress. You can help them grow depending on what the actual client wants to get out of it. Some people, clients will, of course, want more time with their family. Others will want to hit £1 million of turnover, whatever the case may be. So you can kind of help clients achieve that through offering a regular reports, tracking KPIs, and packaging up your advice to really help them. Second one is the potential to win more fees. So if you're just doing kind of annual work at the minute, obviously that's great. It's a good service line, but you can have an additional offering that may help you win more business and maybe get recurring fees every month, for instance, rather than just that annual one-off. And also there's marketing. So you can attract more work again through having different offerings. Now, you know this already, but your different firms will have different approaches. So you might just be a advisory firm and you're just going to do this reporting. You might just be a compliance firm. That's absolutely fine. I think there's also this middle ground where there's the hybrid. So you can determine actually what offerings you want to offer. And some might be right for you, some might not be right for you. But I guess that's a bit of probably an action to take out if you're not too sure what you're offering, is kind of come up with that list essentially. Cool. So now we're going to have a couple minutes here for reflection. I think this is really important, again, just to be quite honest and candid with where you are. So I will be quiet for a couple minutes and I'll let you write down some answers to this. So for those of you who have an offering already, what is your goal? So maybe it is a percentage of clients reached with it. Maybe it is just doing it really efficiently for the minority of clients who are interested. So what is your end goal for that? If you don't have one yet, of course, if you're on this webinar, hopefully there is some interest. So what is your goal for that? And try and put dates against this as well to have a little bit more of a accountability here. What's your current process for introducing this offering or any other offering for that matter? Because it doesn't have to be MI specifically. And then what's your effectiveness out of 10? If it is 10, great, you've smashed it. Please share all your secrets with me. If it's not 10, then what would make it a 10? So just jot that down and we'll reflect on that at the end of the webinar today. All right, so I think that's about a couple minutes, minute and a half maybe. So move on. Of course, if you still jotting down notes, please do continue. So now we're going to get into just a couple of tactics that I've seen used. Again, there's no one size fits all with this. Everyone's on their own different path. So don't feel like just because a slide says something here, you have to do it. It's just trying to be a bit more thought provoking to see what you can potentially do as a firm. And you can kind of select your own approach to things, of course, see what works, and also test and iterate. So going to go into these one by one. I think it's 4 or 5. And at the end, we'll do some kind of actions and another final poll. And then any questions, please do ping them through the Q&A, or again, reach out to me directly via email, and there'll be those details at the end of the slide deck as well. So tactic number 1. So this is to use online visuals in your meeting. And again, I've picked a couple Fathom ones here. Doesn't have to be Fathom, just any online visuals. And the rationale for this is that certain people see value and like learn in different ways. So just as an aside, so I kind of teach Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu at a local gym, and you explain stuff to people and you also then show them. And it's interesting to see the different learning styles, I guess, firsthand. And I think the same would go for clients. So if you say, hey, this is what I can do for you, some people are like, yeah, sounds good, let's do that. Other people will not be kind of as sure, I guess, until they see it. So you can visualize it here. And depending on your specific kind of process and your approach, you might be able to use their own data, which I think really does bring it to life a little bit more. It's not just, hey, here's a gross profit KPI on a chart or whatever the case may be. It's actually, this is your cash amount in the bank, or this is how we can get your specific business from A to B. Having said that, if that your approach isn't that, or you're kind of how you're structuring it that doesn't quite allow for that connection, maybe it's prospective clients, you don't have access to their kind of baseline data or their kind of core financials just yet, you can use a demo company to illustrate it. And again, how you frame it is really important. So it's not just, hey, pay this much to get the visual. It's no, this is how we can help you get from A to B to achieve your kind of goals as a client. Tactic number 2. So this is for those who have a pretty strong compliance offering, like an annual kind of tax service that they offer clients. And for those who want to add MI and offer it to those clients, again, you don't have to. Like, compliance is quite a nice earning, it's essential. But if you do want to, a way to introduce it in quite a nice fashion is to include a simple MI offering as part of your annual compliance pack. So Typically, this is like a 4-page-ish PDF that covers off just some core financials as well as a couple of charts. And it's pretty high level. In Fathom, for instance, you can have it as a template and run it off at the click of a button, so you don't actually spend any more time creating it. You just connect the financials and then you're good to go. But the whole point here is kind of similar to the first tactic, really, is that you're showing them what is potentially an option. And something which a lot of firms that I've spoken to do here, which I definitely recommend, is to segment the clients. Like, it's quite rare. I mean, it does happen, but it's quite rare that you're going to have every single client on the exact same package. Like, some clients just won't see the value, or some clients might not want it, or there might be too early stage of a company that you can't justify that increase in fees, or whatever the case may be. In which case, they'll be in a bracket or a bucket where you won't have them on your MI package. I think that's absolutely fine. Then you have some which see the value really, really early on. So that's almost like an easy win. And you have some which are kind of maybes that maybe need a bit more nurturing to get them on the way. But I wouldn't say, I wouldn't recommend saying to everyone, yeah, this is how you have to do it now. Kind of have the chat with them, hopefully educate them on the benefits. Again, if you're trying to get a big percentage of your clients on these sorts of packages, but if you're not, that's fine. Just to determine which ones see the value as part of that annual compliance pack, and hopefully get them onto a more regular package, whether that's quarterly or monthly. Tactic number 3. So again, this is showing existing clients some initial insights free of charge. So again, kind of tricky. You don't want to do too much for free, of course, but showing them some insights to get them to see the value, I think, is quite important as part of the sales process. And this also applies to prospective clients. Another slide says existing, but it also does apply to prospective. But you won't have their information, but you can show them, hey, this is the best case scenario. This is what happens when you, I don't know, hire 3 people, or whatever the case may be. And that's how you can, I guess, show them that benefit pretty clearly. Tactic number 4. So this is not a contentious one, but there's a lot of debate around this. So you can consider consolidating your offering into different packages off the shelf. Now, the way I see this is there's like pros and cons to it. If you're trying to get a lot of people to have this management information package as standard, then there's obviously a benefit to this, because everyone will get it as part of this recurring fee. Typically, this also includes access to certain softwares, like your core financial softwares, your kind of data capture ones, automation ones, etc., as well as obviously reporting ones like ourselves. But then the downside is that you can't really chop and change and come up with a kind of bespoke proposal that fits nicely into those packages. So, but I would still consider it. Maybe you have different brackets advertised, but you can kind of differ from them a little bit. But as soon as you start unpacking, okay, this is how much for this and this is how much for that, that's where you're going to get into kind of trickier waters, I think. The other point to make here, specifically on the software side of things, is consolidating your offering into like different packages and standardizing the software is also probably worth considering. I always have a lot of sympathy for firms who have like hundreds and hundreds of apps, ourselves included, because no way you can really stay on top of all of the different updates, the best ways to use it. How is your team going to feed all that back if they're using 7 different reporting apps, for instance? Makes it kind of tough. So I think having a consolidated app stack for each of these service packages is also worth considering, to make sure you're really getting the return on investment there. As things develop, apps will kind of merge or have like a Venn diagram. There'll be similarities. You'll make sure that you're not kind of duplicating your payments for that. Essentially, you're still kind of evaluating whether it's best in class for your MI offering or any other offering that you have for that matter. And tactic number 5. So this is marketing the offering. So it's interesting. Let me just pull up the results of the first poll. So 10% of respondents said yes, they actively market the offering a lot. 35 said yes, but could do more. And the other 55% or whatever said they don't. Some because they don't have an offering, fair enough. Others they don't, but they should, which is really interesting because I think if your goal here, and it goes back to that reflection actually, if you have that gap analysis and you're trying to get from A to B, and if that involves any sort of increase in terms of clients like on this offering, then you obviously have to market it. And I think there's different ways to approach this as well. It might depend on what you're comfortable with, your brand, etc. But there's webinars that you can do. So I've seen it before where a firm has partnered with an app like ourselves, or just kind of done their own thing with a client who's really happy, almost like a case study, and they've jumped on a webinar and said, "This is how we can help your business, whether that's prospective or existing." There's also email campaigns. You can just mention, "Hey, this is something that we're offering at the minute. If you want more details, get in touch with your account manager, get in touch using this link or reply to this email, whatever your process is." And also social media posts, because I think really you're not going to have someone just randomly kind of knock on your door or call your office and say, "Hey, I want a management report with monthly guidance from yourself." It's just it's a bit unrealistic. But if they know you offer it, then they might actually do that, because they say, "Hey, actually, I know firm X, Y, or Z. They keep saying they keep helping their clients through doing this management information side of things as well as their kind of tax returns. That's exactly what we need. Let's have a chat with someone there and see whether there's scope for us to do that." The other thing on this I would say is try to stick out a little bit. So obviously doing any marketing is good, so better than none, of course, if your goal again is that growth piece, which comes back to your personal reflection from the start of the webinar. But try to not just be like a sea of the same. So saying like in an email, "Hey, I can run you a report," isn't that enticing. But if you have kind of tried and tested examples, "Hey, I helped this client save X amount of hours in the week," or "I help them grow to their target," or "they have more time with their family," like whatever the kind of emotional hook is, try and use that, because then that will kind of perk the ears of any prospective client or existing client who may potentially be convinced to be upsold to. Tactic number 6, your ideal customer profile. I should have actually put this as a poll, because I'd be really intrigued to know. Actually, if there's anyone brave enough, if you can just put in the chat whether you have an ideal customer profile at firm, just put yes or no. I'd be intrigued to see if any of you do currently have them. If you're not sure what it is, so this is basically where you run an analysis on your existing customers and see what similarities they have. And what this gives you is not necessarily a niche, although it may be a niche if you end up having like, all construction clients, for instance. But what you can do is you can see exactly what customers you're attracting, and therefore which ones you should continue to attract, essentially. And this is really helpful because it will tell you where to market to and what testimonials to get. So rather than just kind of spraying and praying and seeing what lands, which, I mean, if you're an initial kind of startup firm, is probably what you do initially just to get some fees in. Once you're a little bit more established, it's important to know who you're actually attracting. Of course, at the bigger firms, there'll be different ICPs for different departments potentially, but still knowing who you're going after is really helpful. There's a couple of suggestions here in the infographic, but it's definitely not all mandatory or exhaustive. But I do think kind of turnover size, industry, job title are probably 3 pretty important ones, and headcount as well. Perhaps you know exactly who you're trying to attract a little bit more. And also this changes over time. So this might be an annual thing that you do maybe before every new financial year to work out, okay, has that changed? Because maybe initially it's construction clients, and maybe 3 or 4 years down the line, it turns out it's consolidated clients in the UK or whatever, or retail perhaps. So definitely keep an eye on this, because it will help you be a bit more focused, but also help your marketing spend, because you know exactly where to go to attract these people. And you can also interview your existing clients who you get on really well with, and you think, actually, that's almost like an ideal client for me. You can see where they get their industry news, etc., and that will help you identify where you should go to attract more of them, essentially. Cool. So I'm going to launch a second poll now. That was a pretty quick run through of the webinar, but I'm going to launch a second poll. So actually, before I launch this, take a couple minutes and write down any actions off the back of that. I'm going to launch this poll, which will basically say whether you thought it was kind of helpful advice or not. Again, a PDF will come out shortly on this as well. I'm keen to hear if you think it was kind of good or bad or indifferent. But please do, if anything here did resonate in terms of actually that is a useful piece of information, or actually, yeah, I do need to do that, write it down in action and have the action and then the date. And then whoever's going to work on it. So if it's yourself, then that's great. If you want to kind of reach out to a few colleagues as well, that's also great. In the meantime, I will run this poll. So please do be honest as well. Or be offended if you think it's not as good. But yeah, whether the webinar is useful or whether you prefer a kind of more traditional thought leadership one, we'll probably end up doing both. We've done both previously. And again, if you have any more detailed feedback, please do email me. If you say actually it's too short, too long, or too much waffle, by all means, let me know, and I can iterate on that for one next year, perhaps. And any questions, again, fire them in the Q&A. If it's all anonymous, but if you're a little bit shy, you can also email me on anything there as well. But what I would say is a big takeaway is time is super, super valuable. So anytime you're on something like this or any other webinar or sales conference, make sure you're getting something out of it. It's really important that you, that you do that, I think. Cool. Thank you for those who answered the poll. I'll end that now. And I don't think there's any other questions. I'll type an answer to Linton now, actually. Cool. Thanks for joining us. See you next time, perhaps. So again, there's a few other webinars this week. So if you're interested, please do join those. And again, we'll get my marketing colleagues will send out the recording of this hopefully later on this week. If not, it'll be early next week with the practical PDF. If you want to get in touch, please do get in touch. And any feedback, do let me know. Thanks, everyone. Have a great rest of your day.